Okay, so I have an old GameCube controller, but you can see that the joystick is missing. So I'm thinking, what if we replace the joystick left and right with a steering wheel, so that we can play Mario Kart with an actual steering wheel? So in my youth, I took apart a number of these, apparently, and this is what the inside looks like. So you can see it's just a printed circuit board, and the joystick itself is just two potentiometers. It's kind of hard to see here, but when I turn it left and right, you see that thing rotating in the middle? That's just spinning a 10 kilo ohm potentiometer. Same is true if I go up and down, it's just a different pot, and then any sort of movement that I do on the joystick can be represented by the two values on the two potentiometers. I was originally just going to go get a 10K potentiometer that I would solder in place of this one, but the behavior of this one's a little strange. It doesn't appear to be linear, or at least there's something else weird going on in the circuit board, so I'm just going to use the exact same potentiometer. Here's the joystick for the C stick from the controller that I already took apart, and I'm just going to test out whether or not I can separate the joystick from the rest of the board without doing too much damage. And now I'm just going to take off one of these potentiometers so I can test with it a bit and just see if I can even remove it without breaking the whole thing. And that actually came off pretty clean. The piece that's rotating it isn't actually attached, so I'm going to glue it in place. Now this next part was a bit of a riddle. We need the steering wheel to rotate, but the center is already attached to that small plastic piece that rotates the potentiometer. And I'm not comfortable having it just rotate around that piece. I mean, you saw it, it's just a small piece of plastic that'll break super easily. So we need another way to make sure that the wheel can rotate without having anything going through the center. So this is what I came up with. I cut out these slots that a 1/4-inch bolt can slide through really easily. Now you can see they're not that clean because I don't have a router or anything, but if you want my advice, don't trust anyone who hasn't used a drill as a saw from time to time. Here I'm just drilling holes into the piece of wood behind the wheel for the bolts to screw into. And there we go, that's pretty much exactly the behavior we want, and you can see that the rotation is limited so that it can only go about 30 degrees in each direction. That's how much the potentiometer is spinning with the joystick. So here I put the potentiometer in the center of the rotation and drilled out a little groove so that some wires can come down. Speaking of which, I need to actually solder some wires onto the potentiometer, so let's go ahead and do that. So now we'll go ahead and glue in the potentiometer and glue in the wires with some hot glue. Now keep in mind this glue doesn't have to be structural, it's not really bearing any weight, it's just holding the wires in place. And now we'll go ahead and attach the wheel. So we're just going to add those 1/4-inch bolts with some washers so that they can't slide through, and we're going to glue the potentiometer into the center of the wheel. Now that we got the wheel rotating like we want it to, let's make sure that the potentiometer is behaving the way we expect it to. At neutral it's got about 8.2 kilo ohms, all the way to the right it's got about 10 kilo ohms, and all the way to the left it's got a couple hundred. This is the same behavior that I observed with the potentiometer before I attached it to any wires or any wheels, so this is a good sign. Now this potentiometer has to replace the one in the controller, so I'm going to test here on this scrap controller to see if I can remove just one of the potentiometers while leaving the other one intact and still allowing the joystick to move as normal. And that actually went really smoothly, so you can see here that the joystick still rotates freely, it just doesn't rotate any potentiometer. So let's try it out on the actual controller. I'm going to open it up, cut the sticker so that I can actually open it, and this is what the inside looks like. This is the scary part. Now I'm going to try and pull off just this potentiometer and see if I can do the same thing we did on the practice one. And this one actually went even more smoothly. Now all that's left to do is solder the leads from the potentiometer attached to the wheel onto the leads of the potentiometer in the controller. Then we'll cut a small gap for the wire and close it up. So all that's left to do is try it out with the game. So the up and down potentiometer still works as normal, we didn't touch that one. And let's see if the side works. That's real, that was my real reaction. That was me plugging this in for the first time, and these things never work the first time, it just worked. So my heart rate's probably 250 in that clip. So the steering actually works. I have to hold down A with my right hand to keep the gas, and you can see that the steering wheel is kind of sliding around on the floor a bit, which is interfering with the steering. That doesn't stop this from being super awesome though.
I can't. This is so cool.
And this is also a pretty easy fix, so I'm just going to mount the steering wheel onto a stand. Believe it or not, I actually have this exact thing lying around from a previous project. All I had to do was drill some holes and screw the back piece of the steering mechanism onto the stand. And now that the steering isn't sliding around, we can control it a little better. Now, in order to be able to steer with two hands, we have to have the gas going at all times. So this is the solution we're going to use for that right now. And holy crap, this is so cool. So cool. High five. See it. Sit. High five. Oh, yes! Yes! There is one more thing I want to fix. The default position of the joystick is in the center. That means if you're not touching the steering, it immediately goes back to the middle. That's not true for the steering wheel. If you steer it to the left, it stays to the left. And that actually makes it really hard to steer and leads to some erratic driving. So I'm going to see if I can rig it up with some rubber bands so that it by default goes back to the center. There was a bunch of friction, so I had to try a number of different configurations. Honestly, I really thought this one was going to do it. But it turns out that when the rubber bands were pulling down, somehow that was worse, so I tried to rig it so that they were pulling from the top, and that seemed to do the trick. So here we go, now it's time to really try it out properly. I'm going to go through and try and complete the flower cup at 50 cc. There's kind of no point in picking up items. Oh, eat it! Whee! This is wild. This is insane. Alright, third, second. Oh, F you, man. You were just an NPC before, but now you're an enemy. Yeah. This is incredible. I mean, this is, oh no! Why did I take my hands off the wheel? It's how you do it. Don't hit the bump. No! No fair, and those guys don't have wrenches to deal with. Ah! Alright, that's next. Next thing to solve, this. Oh, thread the needle. Pish posh. Alright, what's next? Oh, we have such a good item. Oh, well, there we go. Ooh, hard right. Oh, right to the banana. Dodged it. Oh no. Oh no. Not the Mario Bros. TN. Oh, there we go. That's how we get them. Get them on the curves. This car wasn't built for straightaways. Whip it on the curve. Oh yeah, look at that. Yeah. Curves is where we make our moves. Yes! Oh, we still got another lap though. Oh, what? We ran out of star! No! No big deal here. Ready for this big spin? Oh. Nailed it. I mean, just, oh. Oh, this is so cool. This is so cool. The rubber bands did it. Before I was like, man, this isn't really that terrific of a user experience, but like, unreal. Oh yes, Daisy Cruiser. This is one of my favorites. Oh. Here we go. One more. Yeah. It's my job to thread needles. I'm a seamstress over here. Whoa. Let's go. This is like one of the first things I built that it just works. And I don't feel like I'm gonna break it every time I touch it. Okay. Let's see that big fat trophy. Nice. Biggest shock to me is I made something that works. Oh, so fun. That's a keeper. That's a keeper. Alright. Oh god. I think I'm probably going to leave it there for now. There's definitely room for a part 2. I'd love to make an accelerator, some sort of way to drift and throw items, but I'm going to call it for right now, so thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video.